right. Nick, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your Praxis success story. You are a really well-known name in the community. You run the Sales Mastermind call. You contract advised for us a little bit. And of course, you went through the program yourself and had your own personal transformation. So today I really want to capture just like the whole journey that you've gone through over the past few years, because you've been graduated for a little bit now. Maybe to kick us off, you can introduce yourself and tell us where you are today.
Yeah. So love Praxis. So thrilled to be here. Thank you. Today I am a sales manager at a software company called Toggle. And I used Praxis's sister company, Crash.co. So shout out to help land that role. But I'm just someone who like totally loves sales and views it as like this really interesting, fulfilling career path where the more you work on yourself, the more money you can make. And sales is all about helping people. Edit this. I don't know why I randomly choked up. Sales is all about helping people solve problems. And so like Praxis played a huge role in helping me like realize this and get the opportunity to start my sales career. So yeah, I'm like thrilled to talk about all of it.
Awesome. So let's start from the very beginning. What year did you join the program, and what stage in your life were you in at that time?
I'm pretty sure it was like late 2016. And I had just dropped out of college 2 classes short of getting an engineering degree. And one of the big reasons why I did that is I found that I've really enjoyed entrepreneurship. I was running this like little business, buying and selling coin collections on the side while I was doing my college curriculum. And I found that way more interesting and way more fulfilling than like doing math problems and equations. And so I saw Praxis as kind of like this really cool next logical step, because I knew that in order to be successful as an entrepreneur, I have to gain like a ton more soft skills than I had as like a 19-year-old, just coming out of college or public school or whatever. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, and it definitely does. What would you say your mindset at the time was? Like, why did you go into engineering? Were you all in? And like, at what point during, right before you dropped out, were you like, okay, this is a sign that I just want to get out of here?
Yeah, I think that for me, engineering was just following in my father's footsteps and kind of just like going down the well-trodden path of doing what is expected. You go through this pipeline of elementary, middle, high school, and then the next thing is naturally college. And there's not a lot of like thought that goes into that. The expectation is you get a high-paying job, but that's not what I am put here to do. I don't feel at like a deep psychological level. I like helping people solve problems, but not helping people solve math problems. So I prefer to work with people. That's what makes me like fulfilled and happier. And so, yeah, like sales and entrepreneurship are natural extensions of that curiosity that I have in my personality. And it was more or less like this watershed moment of I was helping this like sweet little old lady sell her coin collection from an ad that I had posted in the newspaper the first time. First ad, first lady that ever responded to it. And I was evaluating and we were like having a great back and forth. And then with that, at the end of the day, she had sold her coin collection. She like got something like $700. And that was $200 more than she would have gotten if she had gone to like a coin dealer in the local area. But I knew that I could flip that coin collection and make $300 or $400. And so it was this like win-win thing where she was thrilled, she got paid more, and I could make money from that interaction. And then it just clicked for me after that just like, this is sales. This is helping people. Like, so that was a really strong pivotal moment for me. And that's when I realized that like, this is definitely what I want to do. And Praxis was just like the perfect extension of that.
When did you and how did you find Praxis?
I actually had a friend. So I was a part of an online group called the Young Philosophers. And I had a friend, Charles Porges, who was going through the program. And it's kind of funny because like he was thinking he needed to drop out of high school in order to do it. And he did. And he's like doing really well for himself now, which is like awesome. And I was thinking about, I was like waffling back and forth. Should I go back to college? Should I finish my degree? Man, I'm 2 classes short. Like, it's safe. My parents are telling me to do it. Like, what do I do? And he was like, nah, man, don't do it. Like, you don't get to convince me to drop out of high school and then like go to college yourself. Like, that's not going to fly. I'm like, you're right. So I took the leap and I did it, and it like worked out super well.
So you're the one, you convinced your friend Charles to drop out of high school to do Praxis.
Yes.
Why was that?
I mean, he was unhappy, and I knew based on like the value proposition of Praxis that he was like 19 at the time, or 18. If you start in sales young, you disproportionately can make a lot of money extremely early in your career and set yourself up for financial independence and success. And that's the direction that he wanted to go. And so, for example, if you start off making 40K salary as an SDR, 60K total earnings at like 18, 19, by the time you're 24, 25, you have like 7, 8 years of sales experience. You can be making $250,000 a year, like in your earlier mid 20s. So it was just like a crazy easy ROI justification for him. And he was thinking, well, but I want to go to a good school so I can like build the network. But then like that problem was also solved by Praxis, because everyone that's in Praxis is like awesome and cool and like really smart and hardworking. And so like that whole element of it is there too.
Super interesting. So you knew all of this about sales at the time, the potential of it being a super fulfilling career. What then was like your research process when you learned about Praxis, or was it like an automatic apply decision?
I think what I ultimately did is I just saw that I had to apply, and I figured, why not just try and see what happens? And so I just did it. And then next thing I knew, I was getting interviewed. And then next thing I knew, I was getting interviewed again. And then next thing I knew, I was accepted. That's just kind of how it went.
How did you feel when you were accepted?
I felt anxious. And for me, that level of gut anxiety 9 times out of 10 is an indicator that like something serious and potentially very good is around the corner.
Interesting. And so you're accepted into the program. It's probably something unlike anything else you had experienced up until that point in your life. What was your experience jumping in for the first time? Like meeting advisors, jumping into the community, going through the curriculum?
Man, it was hard. It definitely stretched me to a degree, like just slightly past my comfort zone, but like within that perfect band of being able to still handle it and grow from it. Like one lesson I learned really early on is about like professional email communication. And my advisor really helped me go from being really off the ball with that and just like slow to respond and not taking things with the appropriate level of urgency to like ingraining like, okay, minimum 24-hour response time. If it's like a critical communication, try to cut that down even more. Here's how you handle email communication. And like, that's just one example, but that's one that's like definitely stuck with me and helped me like throughout my professional career. So yeah, like it was a lot, but it was always within the range of stuff that I could handle to the point where it was helping me grow.
What are some other things that stood out to you, learning wise, that to this day you still find useful?
I think the biggest thing is like the people, man. Like Praxis, I think you guys like advertise like, yes, we're going to hook you up with an apprenticeship and it's job experience and it's a great alternative to college. And people might imagine that they're missing out on one of the most valuable aspects of college, which is the network. But in my experience, one of the first things I could recognize is just like the quality of the people that I was around was astonishing. And these are all people like that I could actually form deep, meaningful friendships and relationships with. And like, I can confidently say that there's at least 5 people that I will have in my network for the rest of my life, and dozens more that are just like really good, fun acquaintances to like meet in a dozen different cities. So yeah, that's like a huge part of it.
That's amazing. Yeah, the community is definitely like a lot of people's favorite part of just the entire program experience. So
Yeah,
you have
100%.
been, sorry?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been out of the program now for how long?
3 years. Yeah, 3 years.
And how active would you say your role is in the community in present day?
Pretty darn active. So I started the Praxis Sales Mastermind almost 3 years ago. Um, and so every single week I'm meeting up with other alumni, new participants, and we all get together and we just help each other solve problems as it comes to our sales careers and like just sharpen each other on our skills.
Awesome. And how has that grown from the time that you started it up until now?
There were weeks where no one would show up, but I kept doing it. And over time, we were pretty consistent. Like 10 to 12 people like show up every single week and we just help each other. And it's a beautiful thing. So I'm very grateful for that as well.
And I'm pretty sure I saw on LinkedIn not too long ago that you've been able to like pivot that to an invite only event, right?
This is true. Praxis people always get like special pass, but yes, this is true.
Awesome. Really cool. So jumping back into Nick in Praxis, the program, I'm assuming you knew exactly what you wanted from the program when you hopped in. You wanted to, kickstart a career in sales. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
How did you go about making sure that happened for yourself going through the program?
Beyond interviewing and starting a job, I just surrounded myself with other salespeople in the program. That's kind of what the Sales Mastermind intent was initially. Like, I knew that I can learn things and I can learn things quickly, but I learn a lot more quickly from people who are struggling with the same things that I'm struggling with. And like us combining our learning all together in like one concentrated force is a lot more effective than my own brain. So like leveraging the community to surround myself with people who are like also trying to succeed early in their sales careers, that was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you landed your opportunity through Praxis with your first sales role. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Can you repeat that question?
The first sales role that you landed, which was through Praxis, what was that role entail? Was it your classic SDR role? How did you go about landing it? And just what was that experience like for you?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, as far as landing the role, is a pretty standard interview process. It was to be an SDR. And within a few months of working there, I was moved from the kind of like new employee contractor role to like a full-time salaried position. So like that was already a huge win for me. And man, this is like humble brag, but true story. Like within the first 4 months there, I was already the top performing SDR. And then I outperformed the next two SDRs combined for 6 straight months until I got promoted. And I owe a lot of that success to the Sales Mastermind because they really helped me step up my game. And there are similar stories like that all throughout Praxis. Logan Westberg, Jared Harlan, a lot of Ben Fickle, a lot of people.
What do you have like specific examples of times where you were able to use the Sales Mastermind call to then like turn around it at work the next day and make something really great happen?
Yeah, I remember those. So this isn't like I probably shouldn't share that particular story because that's like sensitive company information for Reliant. It's hard to say because I mean we would generally just like take problems to each other and just like I don't know what to do in this deal, and like 4 people say here's what I would do, here's what I would do, have you tried this, and then you just do it and then it works. So I can't think of like a specific example from that far back, but that's generally, yes, what I would do.
Yeah, but just like putting multiple minds together on one issue, I can definitely see how that would make a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you say to people who are intimidated by sales that like hear a story like yours and are like, yeah, that's awesome and really impressive, but I could never do that?
So I would say to them that I am by default an introvert. All throughout school, I was a total nerd. I've played 10,000 hours of Counter-Strike, and if I can do it, you can do it. At the end of the day, there's this initial hump in sales, and it feels intimidating, but there's a few mindset shifts that anyone can make that hump feel a lot like lower barrier to entry. For example, if you deeply internalize that sales at the end of the day is about helping people solve problems, that's going to take away the scummy feeling or like internal cognitive dissonance of like, I'm doing something that I don't want to be doing, because you're just trying to help people. If you also go into it with the mentality of, okay, every single person, no matter how good they are at sales, first failed a lot to become successful. So my objective is actually to fail as quickly as possible so that I can get over that hump and start like booking more and more percentage of wins. Going into that with that mentality of like, I'm braced for it. Like that also makes it infinitely easier. Um, and then knowing that you don't have to figure it all out, regardless of what company you're working at. There are people who are, more senior salespeople. You can listen to their calls, you can talk to them, you can ask to sit in on their calls. People have figured out all of the problems, and people have figured out all of the psychological hurdles that you're facing early on in your sales career. And you just have to tune yourself into where that information lives and try to replicate it. Like, it's not this scary, impossible, inconceivable thing that, is a daunting task. It's like, hundreds of thousands of people have already gone through the same process you're about to go through. You just have to listen to the 5 or 10 that are the closest to your situation, know that you're going to fail fast, and know that you're there to help people. And like 90% of that initial roadblock is just demolished.
Amazing. Amazing. And that's so true. Like, you're not the first ever to go through this, which I think is always really
Totally.
good advice.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest way you've changed? Like, you look back at Nick at the start of the program, or maybe right after you dropped out of engineering school up until who you are today. What's that big change that you note in yourself?
It's tough. Like, I think that I was already an adult when I went into Praxis, but then I became like adult as insert expletive by the time I had left. Like, I transitioned from living in with my parents to like being in an entirely new city with my own completely self-sufficient finances and career. I had like started new relationships with so many people in that new city and like built up a network. It really was just like a kickstart to my adult life, and like a good, successful, pretty happy adult life. So it's a lot of intangibles. I would say that it really helped me solidify in like my own self-identity and like become more confident in who I was. Because if I can go through all of this experience like condensed into this 1 year period, um, yeah, I can probably handle a lot more. So
Absolutely. I love that. So flipping back to Reliant, you're an SDR there, you're breaking records, you're feeling really good, gaining confidence, learning a lot. How long did you stay there? And then once you transitioned, what did you transition to?
stayed a while longer. I eventually used a Praxis inspired technique called the value proposition to basically pitch the CEO on becoming the SDR team manager. And within a week, he had accepted that. So that was lovely, pay bump and all that stuff. I did that for like 8 months, and then hired on a bunch more SDRs, was like working on training the team and all that. And then gave the reign of power over to my most successful SDR. And then I wound up my tenure there 6 months as a senior account executive focused on enterprise sales. And I ultimately found a job that is a much better fit for my skill set. So now I'm the sales team lead at a software company called Toggle. And that's sort of where I'm at today.
How did you end up landing the gig with Toggle?
So it was, they have this interesting thing where like you take an online skills test. So if you go to toggle.com/hire, you can see the product that they use. But then I also sent them a value proposition, and I like showed them exactly what I would do for the first 90 days of that. And so that is like kind of what set me apart from the other. It was like 900 people who applied to the role, and eventually I got it. So that was cool.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've seen you doing super well at Toggle and making, hires yourself now as team lead. Were there any points where during any of these, job application processes or interview processes where somebody asked you, like, do you have a degree in sales? Do you have a degree in, business? Do you have an MBA?
No, no. And that's what I love about sales too, is that it's much more of a level playing field depending on the size of company you try to work for. If you go try to become a sales executive for IBM, maybe they'll ask for a degree, but if you're new to sales, you don't want to go work for IBM. You want to work at a young company that's flexible, like a startup, or a mid-market company that's been around 10 years and has 40 million in revenue or something like this. It's there's so many different opportunities, and sales is a level playing field where really only your ability to drive revenue and help people solve problems is what matters.
I love that. So you've definitely been on quite a journey over the past few years, and I know we've gone through the very condensed version of it, and a lot of stuff happened in between all those bigger events. What would you say is like the big direction? Do you have like a big goal or direction where you're looking to take your career now, or you finally hit a place where you're like pretty content with where you are?
No, I think that I have like I don't know, some kind of like internal imperative where I'm never content with where I am. But if I were to set a big goal, I think it's actually more so centered around like family. Like in the next 5 years, I definitely want to start a family. And so I want to be able to financially support a family. And so like the career, the whole purpose of it really isn't for like prestige or whatever. It's just like I want to live a happy and fulfilling life. And so I want to make enough money where I don't have to worry about money in order to have a happy and fulfilling life. So it's probably continuing to work in a sales position where I can make good income, grow my skills, and put myself in a position where I can like put a down payment on a house and like actually start a family, and then reap the rewards of that and like learn to deal and adapt with all the challenges that come from that. Life is a never ending journey. The challenges shift and you get better problems over time. But yeah, there's always going to be ups and downs.
For sure, for sure. Um, Last question I'll ask you is, if you had to give advice to somebody who was maybe in really similar shoes to you that you were in at the time when you dropped out of school, what advice would you give to them? Let's like imagine this is somebody who's thinking about dropping out of school. Maybe they're really close to getting their degree like you were, and they're just feeling really unfulfilled by their higher education experience.
Okay, I'd say a couple things. Number one, the extent to which you feel unfulfilled is a like biological neurochemical signal that something is wrong in your environment, and you need to make adjustments to that, and you have to listen to that discomfort and ask it what it's trying to tell you. And most likely what it's trying to tell you is that this is not the right path and you got to do something else. And if you don't want to go down that path and you don't know what that something else is, there are 1,000 different alternatives to like the force fed, elementary school to college to white picket fence pipeline that like society prescribes. You can literally write your own ticket and do anything that you want. If you want to go work for Gary Vaynerchuk, there are people that can teach you the exact skill sets that you'll need online without having to have a degree. And there are people that can teach you the strategy to get in front of the hiring manager with an interesting pitch and value proposition to get the interview and the position itself. So you can do whatever work like is your true calling. You do not have to go down the like well-trodden path that society prescribes for you. And again, like the extent to which you feel dissatisfied or uncomfortable, those emotions are worth listening to. They're trying to inform you that you need to take a new path and a new direction in your life. And Praxis is a damn good option for that. But like, do your research, figure out what's available to you, and know that you don't have to go down the path that your body is literally trying to tell you not to go.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, a lot of times your body knows what your mind doesn't yet want you to know.
Oof, that's a good quote.
Thanks. Nick, thank you so much for your time today. It was awesome to dive into your story and all your insights along the way. I wish you well and the absolute best with everything in your future.
Thank you so much, Juliana. My pleasure.